in the kitchen today, and today I am going to do a video on making sourdough bread. So I'm specifically going to do a busy mom's sourdough recipe. There's so many recipes out there online, and we're just gonna keep it simple. The goal is to get 2 nice loaves of bread to feed your family. And so as far as I'm concerned, if you end up there, that's a win. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm a super busy mom, and this is how I make my sourdough. I have made sourdough for 2 years. I don't think I've bought bread for our house since then. And this is how I have done it for the past 2 years. And it's really easy. It does take 3 days, but it's only like a couple of hours. Nope, that's not even right. It's a couple of minutes every day, really. It's not a 9 to 5, that's for sure. So if you can spare like 5 to 10 minutes a day, and then on baking day about an hour, you can make sourdough. So the things you're gonna need: your sourdough starter. My sourdough starter came out of the fridge yesterday, so it is room temp and ready to go. I keep mine in a quart size jar, and I have a little rubber band around it just to measure the rise of my sourdough starter. I'm using room temperature water. Today I live in Florida, so room temp water is going to be like 70 degrees or a little higher, so it's pretty warm. You're going to need flour. I was using bread flour for the majority of my bread baking, but I've recently switched to this organic all-purpose because I can't find organic bread flour right now. So I have organic all-purpose flour, and it seems to be working really, really well. A spoon and a scale, like a kitchen scale. So that's all I need for today to start. When you do end up making the bread, you will also need salt. I'm using Celtic salt, I believe, is what I'm using. And then you're going to need a large bowl with a lid. And then when you bake, you'll need a Dutch oven or 2. I have 2 of these. This is a very loved Dutch oven. It is clean, it's just stained. So I can't get these stains out. Yes, I've tried Barkeeper's Friend. I have 2 of these, and these are what I use to bake them in. For the fermenting, I use these little bannetons. I just have the long bannetons. That's just what I ordered. And so I use these with a tea towel. And so I'll use those tea towels to wrap the bread in when I am done making my loaves and shaping my loaves. But first things first, let's go ahead and feed our starter so we can start the process. So step 1, feeding your starter. Okay, a little bird's eye view for this, okay? So I'm just gonna turn on my scale here, and I set it to gram measurements. I'm gonna take the lid off of my sourdough starter, my room temp sourdough starter, and just put it on the scale and then zero out the measurement. Then I'm going to add 140 or 130 grams of water. Okay, I have 134. I am telling you, this is a busy mom's guide to making sourdough. It's really like a lazy gal's guide to making sourdough, because nothing I do is exact. I just am ishing the whole thing. Ish, a little bit of this, ish, I don't know. So now I'm gonna zero it out again, and then I'm gonna add just about the same amount of flour. Okay, so I have 139 grams of flour. I'm gonna turn off my scale and just stir this with a spoon. And then you put the lid on. I had a little extra flour I'm gonna throw away, but I am gonna take a paper towel and wipe out all the starter from my spoon, because if it goes into the sink, it will clog your sink up. So you want to just wipe that off with a paper towel. And then I'm going to take this starter with a lid that's just placed, lightly placed on. So the lid is not screwed on tight, just gently placed in a like little dark corner of my kitchen. And then by tonight, by the time I'm ready to go to bed, it'll be ready for me to make a loaf. So that's it. That's how you feed it. Step 1, done. Okay, so our starter has risen. So it started at this line, and you can see, you can't tell really where it ends. It's like overflowing at this point. And it's a very happy starter. It smells kind of like apples, I would say, and sourdough. So that's what I think it smells like. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get out a really big bowl. So I use this big glass bowl. You can use glass or plastic, whatever you'd like. I'm gonna zero out my weight, so it's at 0. And then I'm gonna pour in about 250 grams of sourdough starter. Okay. That ended up being like 300, but again, this is a very like, I'm a busy mom, I don't have time to measure kind of sourdough journey that we're on here together. Now I'm gonna zero it out, and I have really cold water. You can still see there's ice cubes in my water. So really, really cold water. And I'm just gonna pour it in till it's about 700 or 750 grams. Okay, 729 grams. Now you'll see like a good sign for your sourdough is if your starter floats. My starter is like floating on top here. You can see that. And now I'm just gonna mix the starter in with the water. Until it's like bubbly and white, like a milky type substance. So it should look like this. It's just white, milky starter water, basically. And I'm gonna clear out my scale again, so it's at 0. And I'm gonna add 1,000 grams of flour. Okay, I got to 1,030. Okay, and then I'm gonna add about 25 to 30 grams of salt. Okay. And now this is a dough whisk. You don't have to use a dough whisk. You can honestly mix this with your hands. It's very messy, but you can mix it with your hands. I am gonna mix it with my dough whisk. And all I'm gonna do is just mix this together really, really well. I kind of like to just like scrape it down from the sides, I guess, and then incorporate it like that. And you're gonna initially have like a pretty shaggy dough. I don't do any stretch and folds. Please excuse the dog toy in the background. But I don't do any stretch and folds for my dough because I don't have time for that. And I'm doing this right before bed. It is 8:23 and we have had a very long day. I am gonna go in bed and read a book. And so I'm making my bread now, and then I'll be up at 5:30. And I can shape my loaves. Now, if you don't rise as early as me, you stay up a little later, you can do this like right when you're going to bed. That's why you use that cold, cold water. It does take a while for the dough to come together, so you just have to kind of be patient with it, but it'll come. Okay, so if you're gonna do stretch and folds, you honestly can just leave your dough looking like this. It's a really shaggy consistency, and I'll do a close-up for you. You can see it's like a nice shaggy dough, like if you've ever made like biscuits or something, kind of gets like shaggy like this. So now I am gonna hand knead it just because I really want to work the dough until it's a little smoother. So we're gonna get a little dirty here. It's really important that you cook with clean hands. So hands are always dry because I wash my hands so much when I cook, and I cook so much. So it's really important because if you have dirty hands, now you have dirty, disgusting bread. So that's gross. All right, my dough is looking pretty good. I'm gonna go wash my hands and then I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. I'm gonna pick this back up and I'm just gonna work it a couple more times with the whisk and then we're gonna be done. I just really like to knead the heck out of the dough because, like I said, I don't do the stretch and folds, and I want it to just still be a light and airy dough and give me a nice bread. So you gotta knead it. And you can see, I don't know if you can see it, but it's actually like starting to pull off the sides. You can see there's like no bread on the sides because the dough is like really coming together in a nice ball. All right. I'm good with that. Dough still is nice and cold, which is good. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna put the lid on. And then I'm gonna set it on my counter until tomorrow. And it's just gonna sit there. So it does take a couple minutes to knead and work the dough together, but then it just sits overnight and it'll rise tonight and we'll be ready to make some loaves, shape some loaves tomorrow. That was step 2.
Good morning. It's early, but I'm gonna make some loaves of bread. So my dough rose and it actually popped the lid. So I don't know if you can see that, but the lid got popped off because the dough rose so high. And I'm just gonna shape 2 loaves. I'm gonna pull this out of the bowl, shape 2 loaves, and then stick them in my bannetons. I'm gonna bring it down so that you guys don't have to see my lovely depuffing face. And you can just watch what I'm doing with the bread because that's really what you're here for anyway, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with that. Okay, I'm gonna use a bench scraper. You don't have to use one of these. You could just use a spatula, a rubber spatula, but I'm gonna use a bench scraper just because, or a bowl scraper, just because I have it. Okay. This is rice flour. You can use regular flour, but I'm gonna use rice flour. Why do I use rice flour? I don't know. Someone said it online and I bought a thing of it, and so now I have to use it up. Now I'm just gonna scrape the dough out of the bowl onto the countertop. Using this little thing, you can also just use a knife. Split it into 2 pieces that are about even looking in size. Okay, now I have my 2 pieces. I need to lay tea towels out in my banneton bowls. little rice flour in there. Again, you can just use regular flour. I'm just using rice flour because I have it and I want to use it up. I don't want to waste it. Now I'm going to shape my loaves. I'm going to start with this guy here. I'm just going to pull them out. Then I'm just going to fold it on itself. Stretch it out. Fold it. Fold it. Roll it. And now I'm going to create tension into a nice ball. Okay, now I'm going to take it and I'm going to just kind of make it into the shape of my banneton here. And then stick it in there, just like that. That's it. Now I'm going to do this one. I'm going to shape it. You want to pull it out and like spread it out like this, but you don't want to have any like huge holes in the dough. So you'll see all my dough is still nicely put together. There's no big holes. So now I'm just going to fold it. Oh, pop the hole. Did exactly what I told you not to do. But listen, we're just getting it done. We just want to have 2 loaves of bread tomorrow. I don't know how many times you're supposed to do this. I think it's like 6. I'm pretty sure I've done more than that. I don't know. Again, this is like just not an exact science for me. I know that this is a very exact science for a lot of people, but it's just, listen, I just want to have bread in the house, so I'm just doing this the best that I can to reach a goal, you know? I'm going to kind of like try and knit it together a little bit. It's hard because my hands are doughy, but that looks pretty good. And then cover it up. Same thing here, just kind of knit it together. And then cover it up. Okay. Okay, so I had to make coffee. It's way too early to not have coffee yet. So that's what you hear in the background is my coffee machine. But now that I have my doughs shaped in their bannetons and covered, I'm gonna just stick them in the fridge for about 24 hours. I can bake them today, like I could bake them this evening, but the longer you let it sit in the fridge, the more sour the dough is going to be and the easier it is for your gut to digest. So just because it's fermenting for longer, I probably won't bake these until tomorrow, but like I said, I could bake them this evening. And that's it. So 2 doughs going in the fridge. That's step 3. Okay, I'm back with step number 4 for baking your sourdough. So this is the time that we're actually gonna bake the bread. So I'm gonna take my loaves out of the fridge, bring them out here. I'll place them on parchment paper and then stick them in Dutch ovens to cook. Right now, my oven is preheating to 450 degrees with the Dutch ovens in the oven. So I took my Dutch oven pots, stuck them in the oven, and then started the oven to preheat to 450. Once it's preheated, I will grab my dough from the refrigerator, I will score it, and then stick it in for baking. I'll take you along with me as I do it, but as for right now, step 4 is waiting for this. The first part of step 4 is waiting for the oven to heat up. So once that's done preheating, I'll get the doughs out and we'll get going. All right, so I just went and got the dough out of the refrigerator. So I'm just gonna uncover it. You can see it's just how it was. And then I'm gonna pop it out onto a piece of parchment. You'll see that rice flour
on top. So just like that. And I'll do the other one a little closer up. All right, so I'm gonna do my next one. Just gonna open it up and just pop it out onto the paper. Okay, and now I'm gonna use this, I don't know, there's a name for this and I don't know what it is right now, but it's the slicer thing. So you're gonna slice it, you can use a knife too, and you're just gonna make a deep cut on one side. I just always do the same thing because I'm boring and I'm busy and I just don't care to concern myself with being super fancy. So that's what I'm doing. Doing both of them. Okay. Now I'm gonna get out the Dutch ovens from the oven. They are preheated, so that's the next part. Okay, so my Dutch ovens, they're hot, really hot. They just came out of the oven that was preheated to 450. So what I'm gonna do is put like 4 or 5 ice cubes in each Dutch oven. What that does is just create steam to give you a nicer loaf so it doesn't like burn on the bottom. And then I'm gonna pop my bread into each Dutch oven, put the lid on, and then bake it with the lid on for 25 minutes. Hey Google, set a timer for 25 minutes, please.
Got it. 25 minutes.
Now they're in,
now.
cooking for 25 minutes with the lid on, and then when the timer goes off, I'll remove the lid and cook them for another 25 minutes with the lid off. Okay, so after the first 25 minutes, I came back out and I took the lids off and then stuck them back in the oven for another 25 minutes. The bread is done now. The timer went off. So I'm gonna grab it out of the oven and then show you what I do next. So I get a cookie rack out. So I just take like one of my cookie racks for when I bake cookies out, and I'm gonna take my bread out of the Dutch ovens and let it cool. Looks good. She's hot. All right, so now I have 2 yummy loaves of sourdough, and they turned out pretty good today, I'd say. They look pretty nice. This one has like a little butt from the parchment paper. It has like a little crease there. But they look pretty good. Now, here comes the hardest part. You have to wait. They still continue cooking after they come out of the oven. So I typically like to wait like 4 or 5 hours before I will slice into one of these pretty loaves. So I do wait a significant amount of time because you want it to finish cooking and you want to make sure that your bread is done all the way before you really slice into it. If I were to slice into it now, the texture of the inside would almost become like gummy because it would all get jammed up because it's so hot in there. So you want to let it cool to really get that nice, beautiful texture and nice airy bubbles within your bread. So you do want to let it cool for a little while. So I'm gonna just let it cool for probably Yeah, like I said, like 3 hours, and then I will slice into it and show you what it looks like on the inside. We get 2 loaves. Okay, so the bread is cooled, and I'm now gonna cut into one of the loaves and show you what the inside of the loaf looks like. It smells fantastic. I don't know if you can hear it. It's crinkling and cracking. Just because it has like all these little bubbles under the crust or whatever. So, all right, I'm gonna cut it open and then show you what it looks like in the middle. I do normally use a deli slicer to cut my loaves just because I can get super thin slices. So I got a deli slicer off of Amazon and I use that usually, but I'm just using a knife right now. But check it out. Boom. Look at that. Delicious. I'm not gonna lie, I already ate a bread butt and it was so good. The dogs agree because they have both decided to come and beg for bread. But yeah, I'm so excited. I got 2 good loaves, and every time I make bread, the overall recipe is a little bit different. I use the same, almost the same exact measurements, but every time it's a little bit different because I'm just not an exact measurer and I just don't have time to be exact. And so if you ever had like anxiety or nervousness about making sourdough because you're like, oh my gosh, the measurements stress me out or whatever, it really didn't take that much effort to make it. And as you saw, my measurements were not exact in any way, shape, or form. So everything was kind of a general measurement. And so if I can do this, you can do it too. If you have questions, comments, anything, I'd love to hear them. And if you are someone who bakes sourdough professionally, I just want to apologize if you got this far in the video, if I offended you, because I know that there's a true science and art to making sourdough, but I also know that there's a place for bread baking in the home outside of the professional world, and that's why we pay you to make really awesome loaves of bread, and we just have these at home that are great and good enough, you know, they get the job done. So anyway, good luck in all your bread baking endeavors, and I can't wait to hear from you. Hopefully I will. So thanks for joining me. I had fun making sourdough with you, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye.